Hello and welcome back to my channel. And yeah, if something is moving, that means we're running the world's jankiest setup for phone placement, because I discovered I don't have 3 arms. Quite disappointed up until this moment. However, as you guys can see, we have a 4070 in our hands, and today is going to be kind of like the unboxing stuff. And then we're gonna go and play some games with it, and we're gonna compare apples to apples in terms of 3070 Ti versus 4070 Ti. So let's see if my idea works and we can actually see what's in a box. This is, as you see, an Asus TUF version of the GPU. And as you know, I have Asus TUF 3070 Ti. So I do believe this is actually gonna be a pretty good stuff. Now we just need to figure out, ooh, it opens quite fancy. Okay, there we go. So what do we have? We have the infamous power connector that goes for 2 8-pin into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12-pin. Okay, interesting stuff. We also have some TUF Gaming cable management strip, which is always good to have. And we have, oh, no way. Oh, this is good. This is good, guys. This, if memory serves me right, should be, in my mind, the GPU hold bracket. I think it can be used as one because this is a rubber tip. And it's also like a screwdriver on the other end. Pretty cool. I'm pretty sure this is for the GPU's anti-sag, that you just set it like this or like this, depends how your case is, and the GPU is not going to be sagging down too much. That's interesting. Right, let's get to the meat and potatoes here, which is going to be the GPU. Probably loud crunching noises. Oh wow. Okay, this is definitely a workout situation right here. So let's have a look. Okay, right. I think we need to close the shop for a bit here just to have a better look. So, this is what we have. Bloody hell, guys. Can you see that? That is literally 3.5 slot design here. I mean, Mr. Krabs is not even reaching the other end if there would be food there. And yeah, so far the usual stuff as with the TUF cards, performance mode, quiet mode, obviously we're not going to touch that. Quite a few connections out there, 2 HDMIs, 3 display ports. People say the build quality is nice, but to be fair, I don't know, am I going crazy? So let's do the comparison size-wise. So this is the 4070 Ti, and this is my old 3070. And to be fair, lengthwise these cards are rather similar. The only really noticeable difference probably is when it comes to side by side in terms of the width, which this is a 2-slot card and this, well, probably would say 2.5 slot then. And this somehow, the 3070 somehow feels a little bit sturdier than this. Anyway, I have prepared a pretty interesting spec sheet, which you probably can't actually see on the camera, or maybe you can. And I outlined some of the bits that obviously a lot of people on the internet is asking questions about, and I find myself among them. So number one, the boost clock. To be fair, I shouldn't circle that because different cards will have different boost clocks coming from the factory. You can either get a overclocked, slightly overclocked version, OC version from the factory, or you're running with a regular Ti or the 4070. The CUDA core count is increased in comparison to the 3070 Ti. The Tensor core count is increased, but we are having less ROPs, or the rasterization units that are basically doing all the texture streaming and stuff. So instead of the 3070's 96, we are with 80. The good thing is L2 cache has increased supposedly to 48 megs, so you know that's always a good thing. Memory size is slightly bigger, so 12 gigabytes, something that we've seen on 3080s. Memory type is the same, and here comes the big controversy. So the memory bus width. So for the 3070 Ti, the memory bus is 256-bit, and for the 4070, it's 192. Now, all of these cards, all of the 4070s are shipping with 192-bit bus, which is slower, and it shows here. Now, I do believe this number is not entirely correct, though, because 3070 is supposedly having 608 gigabits per second, and for 4070 they claim it's 504. So 192 256. I'm pretty sure this number is lower, but it looks good on paper. And for the TDP, so this is one of the questions that people are obviously asking, and as you can see here, suggested power supply is 600 watts. I know Nvidia is pushing that you need a minimum of 750, but the TDP will not lie. Okay, so if the 3070 is running at 290 watts, which is probably the peak, then the 4070 is supposedly going to be running at 285. Now, I'm going to be trying and running this test with a 600 watt power supply. If needs be, if there's any issues, which should be pretty obvious when we power it up, we do have a 750 power supply ready to go. Both of them are, by the way. You know what? I'm not even going to say who the manufacturer is. We're not sponsored by them, nor I would actually, go the extra mile to suggest them to you. However, the thing is, what we will be looking at is 4 games, okay? Number 1 game will be the Ghost Recon Wildlands, because I want to see how that game runs in 4K. Ultra settings, and so far I have not seen a GPU that is able to just, from the get-go, max it out and get above 60 frames. Also, my channel features a lot of Wildlands content, so if you're looking for relatively cheapish upgrade, and you're looking at the 4000 series, who knows, maybe 4070 Ti will be your ticket home. From that point on, we're gonna revisit some Assassin's Creed titles, specifically Odyseey, because that is an open world. It is another Ubisoft title, but it is graphically demanding. Then we're gonna run full-on blown-out Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition, because that is basically a ray tracing engine with some storyline underneath. And we're gonna finish it up with Horizon Zero Dawn, which, to be fair, runs perfectly fine even on 1080 Ti and stuff like this. But all of these tests will be running without DLSS, without any kind of downscaling, without any kind of gimmicks, just to compare a 3070 Ti performance to 4070 Ti. And should you upgrade, should you hold, should you buy, and anything like that. Also, if you're watching and you actually survived 7 minutes into this video, let me know down in the comments below which games you would like to see being played with a 4070 Ti, and that's about it, I guess, because you already know how 3070 Ti performs. So let's remove all this stuff. Let's slot it in, boot stuff up, and I'll see you with all the games. Let's go. And the first game we're going to be going through with the 3070 Ti is Ghost Recon Wildlands. This is a Ubisoft title, and to be fair, it is quite hard to run it in 4K Ultra and get stable 60, so let's see what we're gonna have here. So as you can see, video wise, we're going with a native 4K, resolution scaling is at 1 or 100%, no vertical sync, and frame rate limit is off. When it comes for the graphics, we're going with the Ultra preset, so absolutely everything is cranked up by the game as much as we can, including the God rays and subsurface scattering. So yeah, let's do a benchmark and see where we get here. Also, we're going to be noting this down because, well, frames are important, so that's going to be a fun one. Now, I approximately roughly know how much we're going to be get with 3070 Ti, but let's just verify. So we'll start off with a strong 48 frames. Memory usage for video is 7.9 gigs, almost the full VRAM that we have, and 11 gigs of actual RAM. Even though the game is relatively old, I mean, it came out in 2017, as you can see, graphically and open world stuff kind of takes its toll on us. That wasn't grammatically correct, but you get the point. So we are pretty much at the low 50s here, hitting about 40-ish, 47, 46. And as you know, despite the fact that this game launched on consoles with 30 FPS, you kind of want to hit that sweet spot at 60. Now, there are some in-game things you can change to achieve 60, but you know, if we're maxing stuff out, then we need to compare apples to apples. So we get 50 frames on Ultra preset, GPU usage 98.9, and yeah, our 32 gigs of RAM did not help. So there you have it. Let's quickly load up the game itself, just to see, verify the frames we're gonna get in actual in-game scenario rather than a synthetic benchmark, and we're gonna just go from there. There is a new campaign being played right now, so you know, it's gonna be exactly how it's gonna be. And we should be in Koani, by the way, so not too much things around us, so just an empty white space, which probably is not the best for benchmarking, but it is my favorite area if you actually watch my channel. So let's see how good or bad it's gonna be actually in game. And to be fair, the draw distance and all the assets should kind of play a little bit of a role here as well. So with nothing in our sights, about 70-ish frames, pretty smooth and nice. Zooming in doesn't really do much. 64 lowest. Yeah, well, as I said, there's literally nothing for the GPU to work on, so we're kind of at 70-ish, but for consistency's sake we're gonna just leave it here. So let's see how 4070 Ti fares with the same settings in the same setting. And here we are with a 4070 Ti, so let's see if the day has finally come. So as you can see, we're going again with a 4K, resolution 1, no vertical sync. We do have 12 gigs of video memory to play with. And for the graphics, we're going with the same preset of Ultra, so let's run the benchmark, let it rip, and let's see how much frames we're able to squeeze out with an i5 4070 Ti and good old 32 gigs of RAM. So, oh wow. I mean, to be fair, 60 would be great. You know, for this game, as I mentioned on the previous part of 3070, I'm a little bit curious. And we did see 60 for a moment. So here we go. Kind of 60-ish. So I would say at this point it's kind of relatively clear that probably we're just being held back by the CPU, which is a little bit odd because in 4K that shouldn't really matter that much, but at the same time GPU is churning out everything and we are getting more frames in 4K than we did with the 3070 Ti. Is it a substantial upgrade? Probably not really. At least if you have an i5, so let's see how much we're actually going to be getting. I think the average is going to be about like 60-ish. So let's see how the synthetic benchmark finishes up, but yeah, so we're averaging at supposedly 61. So okay, that was interesting. However, synthetic benchmarks, and I'm leaving room for benefit of the doubt, is only telling one side of the story. So let's run the campaign again. We're gonna be in Koani, and if my memory serves me right, we were getting about 70-ish in the flats. So yeah, now talking about the numbers, with a 3070 we were getting 4950-ish doing the synthetic benchmark, so there is some frame increase there, about 8 frames. And we were getting 70 frames in the Koani flats, which we are actually getting, well, 90. You know, it's, to be fair, 4K 90 for this? Knowing how this game is, I don't think I should be too unhappy if you know what I mean, so. The card is running pretty well. As you can see, 99% of usage, so to be fair, for a Ubisoft title, 2017, this is absolutely not bad. I wonder if it's gonna improve my ability to shoot and hit stuff. It does. Too many frames. Way too many frames. Well, third time's the charm.
Okay, all clear.
Well, to be fair, not too shabby. let's go and take a look at the next one. And the next game on our radar is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Yes, I know it's another Ubisoft title, however, this one graphically looks fantastic. So let's just double check the settings we have set up. So we're going again with 4K native, 100% resolution, no vertical sync, and obviously no FPS limit. Graphic wise, we're going with a preset of ultra high. Adaptive quality is off, so as you see there's quite a few things we can tinker, but everything's going to be left as it is. Game predicts we're going to be using 5.2 gigs of video memory, so that's as far as it goes. So let's run a benchmark and see what we're actually going to have. Obviously, as you know, Ubisoft games are usually bound to a CPU performance rather than the GPU, which usually kind of boils down to some micro stutters and stuff during the gameplay. Then again, you know, it's just Ubisoft, nothing really to see here, so let's just move along. So let's just give us a better overview here. So we are starting strong with about 70-ish frames, and the question starts with an open world, and as expected we are dipping down below 60. So we are pretty much at the low 50s here, which is probably gonna be the same as Wildlands, and gonna drop. So as you can see, based on the GPU usage, we are actually pulling 7.8 gigs of video memory and 12 gigs of RAM. So it is how it is. GPU usage 99%, and CPU is, well, relatively putting in some work. CPU cores are actually using 70+% at times. Obviously all the reflections, and this is an open world title as well, so as you might imagine, all of this actually amounts to pretty good test of overall performance of the PC. Of course, storage matters as well, but we are on NVMe drive, so at least that variable is out for good. So it looks like we might be averaging around 50 frames at a very best, and supposedly we are at 57. So minimum frames 34, maximum 150. So as you can see, pretty decent. So let's go and, as before, just start a little bit of actual in-game, just to see how it looks and feels. Obviously we're going to be getting around the same FPS, give or take, so I'm not holding my breath on it. At the same time, if you actually care about this game, I would say this Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins are probably one of the two best Assassin's Creed games, at least, that has come out within the span. You could probably wait out for the Mirage, which is launching not soon, relatively. I do believe it was October 16th or something, so you might want to hold on to that thought. And so far it looks great. However, in terms of hardware requirements, we don't have too much news. I've seen some leaks, but apparently a 1080 will be fine for that game, which I highly doubt. So here we are within the actual game, and what we see is roughly sub 60, 60-ish. So let's see if we can just make our way downtown where we have something to play around with. So CPU usage is automatically up. However, this is one of them glitches which also plagues Valhalla and Wildlands. As you see, the CPU usage has dropped back down, and we are comfortably running around 60+ frames. So granted, once you get into the combat and you get all the flashy moves and effects, it's probably gonna drop down. So I would say it's fair to assume that it's roughly around 60-ish anyway. So yeah, GPU usage 7.7 gigs of video memory and only 11 gigs of RAM, so it's not the worst. And considering we are recording in full 4K, 60 frames, give or take, you're losing about 2 to 3, 5, 7, maybe 8 frames anyway. You get the idea. So yeah, pretty interesting to see what the 4070 is gonna do. So let's take a peek. And here we are with 4070 Ti in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So just to double check before we jump in, we are running at 4K native, 100% resolution, no vertical sync, no FPS limit, graphic wise ultra high as before. So on the previous run we were getting 5760 during the casual synthetic benchmark, and we're getting 60-ish on the actual gameplay. So how about we just go in here and see how it all looks and feels now. So I kind of expect similar performance as Wildlands, due to this being a Ubisoft title. However, this is the proof. If synthetic benchmark runs bad, game might actually run better, which is counterintuitive, I know, but trust me, it works. At least most of the time, really. So here we are. Okay, right. So straight off the bat, 90 FPS. Before that we were at a very good 70 here. Let's see if we are able to keep ourselves above 60. And we are dangerously close to dropping below 60. However, this is actually going rather well. So the CPU and GPU timing is actually pretty much in sync, which is exactly what you would want to see. So I wouldn't say there is a huge bottleneck. The 100% CPU usage, I'm pretty sure that's either a glitch or just something that happens with these games. So far we are at winning 60 plus frames, which is good. You know, I wouldn't say that I was expecting very huge jump forward, because 4070 is essentially a DLSS box, you know, frame generation and whatnot. But even though, with an i5 96K on stock, I would say this is a pretty good indication what performance you can expect to have. So yeah, 74, which is, well, a good nearly 20. Well, to be fair, it's 57, 74, so 13 frame improvement. Still good, you know, it's improvement. It's better that we're having higher score rather than lower. Now, I am curious about the real game performance, because, you know, this is a synthetic benchmark and I keep repeating that. But this is where the meat and potatoes are, again, for the second time. So let's just quickly launch the actual game in here, and we're gonna be seeing the real face of this performance. So we're continuing on where Alexios got left off, and oh boy, something tells me we might actually be hitting 80 frames instead of barely 60-ish to 63, which means it's just maybe better optimized than Wildlands. Who knows? I do not know. I don't want to jump in the conclusions as much as I would love to. Right. Here we are. And the moment of truth shows us 77 frames. Wow. Okay, 68, 65, 69. Is the fire taking away our frames? No, it actually improves our frames. Right. Let's make our way downtown where all the good stuff is. The 100% CPU usage has gone down, and what do we see? We see 70-ish frames anyway. So, with the 3070 Ti, we were getting 62, 65 in exact the same area. And in here, you know what? Let's do this since we're roaming around. CPU GPU time relatively in sync, very good. Wouldn't say there's too many dips anyway. The MSI is reporting every 500 milliseconds, so we're not seeing the jumping graph up and down. However, I must say this is definitely an improvement when you're looking for it. And for ultra high in 4K, guys, I would say this is exactly what you probably would be happy to have here. Look at this. Now, if you would actually have an HDR monitor, I do believe you would actually see the whole eye candy of this game. But, oh well. This is how it is. And it is not bad at all. Right, let's go and take a look at the next title. So far, the 4070 Ti is winning. Let's go. And the next game in our lineup is Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition. So, it's the same Metro Exodus, but this one is completely rebuilt for ray tracing only, I would even dare to say. Everything is reflecting light and bouncing it off in any direction you can possibly see, but it does come with a trade-off. Even in the selection screen, we're greeted with 30 frames, GPU usage 99%, and 3070 Ti is definitely struggling here. So let's have a look at the options. So to be fair, nothing crazy is set up. 4K native, quality extreme, no vertical sync. Motion blur is gonna be off. Ray tracing on ultra. NVIDIA DLSS is turned off. Reflections are ray traced, obviously. And well, that's about it. Hairworks are on. Advanced physics are off because bottles, really. Tessellation is on. Field of view and shading rate is as it is. So let's have a quick look here. And yeah, to be fair, these settings might be a little bit of an overkill, and I would definitely suggest using something like a DLSS, but let's give it a go nevertheless.
Who could still believe we're not alone on this earth? My wife, my comrades from the Order.
And this is the starting level, and as you can see, well, it does look good, but it also looks sub 30 frames. So, one of those things. To be fair, I recently did play Metro Exodus, and honestly, I just don't really see too much of a difference when it comes to the light. You really need to look for all the things to actually kind of notice the big picture here, which I don't think we are able to see just yet. So let's go into a little bit more intensive places here. Oh, we actually gained the frame by lighting the spider web. Yeah, well, baseline is 24 frames. I mean, we're not gonna go through the whole game with this, but a little bit here and there. It's actually even hard to aim at the things that are popping up on the screen here. This is a proper PowerPoint slideshow, if I may say so myself. And we do have a combat section up ahead, so I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this, you know. So in reality, we are very heavily under 60 frames here. Not surprising, to be fair. Metro Exodus by default is quite taxing, hence they added in DLSS support for it. But yeah, ray trace stuff to show all the beauty and the candy of ray tracing definitely does fit the bill when you look at it. Like, these things kind of do look a little bit different from a base game. But then again, you need to play this game religiously to actually know the difference. Glorious 24 frames, guys. What about that? I mean, all of this does look good, but oh wow. I mean, oh wow. This is not something I would say is worth the eye candy. This game is a first-person shooter with quick time events and the like, so 24 frames or barely 30 is not exactly the way to go about this. So yeah, this is an enclosed location, so it's not even outside the world. Like, it's not the Volga level, it's not the Caspian Sea. So you can just imagine how terrible all of this is gonna be outside. So yeah, let's see how 4070 Ti does the job for us here. So here we are with the 4070 Ti in Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition. So let's just go over options just to make sure we're on the same page. Still 4K, extreme quality, no vertical sync, ray tracing on ultra, NVIDIA DLSS is off, reflections are ray traced, and everything else is as we left it. Now, first and foremost, I must say we are already seeing improvement on this screen as a 45 frames. With the 3070 Ti we were getting 24. So stable improvement. Let's continue on and see where we end up and what we see. Now this is gonna be in closed location, obviously, but hey, still,
since anyone's
it
heard
works.
anything but static and white noise on the radio. Who could still believe we're not alone on this earth? My wife, my comrades from the Order.
Okay, so here we are, straight into the combat sequence, and we're using 8 gigs of video memory, 99% usage, 50 to 50-ish frames. Well, to be fair, this is not 24, okay? So, granted, going with the 4K Ultra everything on Enhanced Edition, it is clearly an overkill. I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe 4090 could pull this off? Have to check, really. But at least we can actually shoot and aim at the same time rather than one of the two before, so that is good. So, to be fair, this is not half bad. So, looking at the light, I don't know, you probably will be very hard pressed, as I said before, if you're looking for this RTX eye candy. The game looks good on a default by itself, so it's not exactly you're getting an additional eye candy here, if you know what I mean, but I would say enabling DLSS in this title probably will give you a nice boost. The game itself does not support frame generation, at least not to my knowledge. So at this point we just need to really, you know, kind of live with that. So yeah, let's get in here. I think this is as good place as any to do that last stand. Never-ending enemy spawns. And yeah, here we are. So, to be fair, it's not too bad. So, improvements, we do have improvements. To an extent. But, still an improvement. So let's go and check out the next title. And the last game in our lineup is Horizon Zero Dawn. So this is a 3070 Ti, in case you missed it. So let's take a look at the settings. So display 4K native, no upscale is gonna be used. No adaptive performance frames, FPS limit is unlimited. Full screen, no vertical sync. Graphics preset, ultimate quality with everything we have. So let's run a benchmark and see how this goes. I would say, to be fair, I have high hopes for it. This game does not really have any ray trace stuff, and it is essentially a console port. And it's been heavily patched ever since the release, even to the point where PC players can actually enjoy this. Probably not the most demanding list or demanding title on our list, but I would say it's still definitely worth an eye candy if you are able to max it all out. And yeah, to be fair, one of the games I actually can easily download because the file size is rather small. It's about 65 gigs. Unless you have a DLC, then it's 200,000 gigs, but hey ho. Anyway, let's see what we're gonna be getting here. Probably sub 60, I do not know, but I do believe it is worth the wait. Quick disclaimer, you will be waiting for shader compilation to finish first time you launch the game, and if you swap out GPU, exactly the same thing happens. The game does read off information from your display adapter, so whichever monitor you are hooked up to, it will automatically get that particular resolution on. So if you have 4090 and you're sitting on a 1080p, well, happy days. Apart from that, everything else should be fine now. And yeah, this loading screen is taking longer than usual. CPU is absolutely pegged out. We're pulling 11 gigs of actual RAM and 7.5 on the GPU front. Which means I can finally see how it goes. And from a get-go we are off to pretty stable 70-ish frames, which is probably gonna drop down anyway once we go into the city. GPU usage 99%, exactly what we want to see. 12 gigs of RAM being used, 7.4 on video memory. So as you can see, after all the patches and heavy lifting done by the studio, the game is actually playable, and 3070 Ti is possibly good enough to run this. Now granted, again, this is one of those affected games where all the attacks are very explosive and reflective and a lot of things are going on at the same time, so expect some serious performance drops if you're playing barely on the edge of 60 frames. So even now within the city we are dropping down pretty substantially, I would say, 65, 66ish. And yeah, well, it's not really too bad if you think about it. So yeah, finally they made it, you know. And this is without no upscaling, so obviously you could enable DLSS and get something more out of it, but hey ho, you know, if you're willing to replay older titles, you want to finally max them out, see how they run, this is your ticket in. And I would say Horizon Zero Dawn probably is a game you could play through once or twice or even maybe 3 times if you feel like it. And it is a good looking game. Combat is simple, there is even a storyline somewhere in that game. And you get to shoot a bow and shoot machines, so you know, what else you actually need. Well, to be fair, I'm not surprised. I thought that honestly, out of all these titles, this is gonna be the most easiest on the system, so obviously we're gonna let it finish, which is gonna be just up the stairs and up and away. And we'll see the actual in-game performance as well, which, to be fair, I often see it's better than the benchmark. So I would say we should be at about high 70s, so 72, 75. Which is a weird thing to say when I say high or low, but you kind of get the idea. As long as we're not dangerously close to the threshold of 60 and below, everything's kind of either high up or low, depends on how you look at it. And you know, some games are expected to perform better or worse, so that's how I make up my mind about good or bad performance. And if I'm not mistaken, the last flyby, and that should be the end of this benchmark, going for the bridge in the distance, not the first one. And yeah, I think we're gonna be averaging at about like 68 frames or so. So let's have a look-see here. Ah, bang on, 68 frames, maximum 132, minimum 45. So yeah, well, it is how it is, right? Oh, go away. So let's go and continue wherever we have left off. This is one of the games that I occasionally play if I have it, but I don't have it, so I don't even know where we're gonna be. Either a new game plus or somewhere in the boonies. We're gonna figure it out in about 7 minutes, I guess, because the loading times are exactly the same. It doesn't matter if it's a SSD or NVMe drive. It's just, I don't know. I think it's something to do with the porting on PC or memory allocation. CPU is going crazy from time to time. GPU is doing nothing, which means a lot of data needs to be pre-built rather than cached. So I guess we're just making a whole level now. And we are right into the combat here, which I am not going to entertain because I don't remember how to play this game. So 60-ish frames. Not really the worst, not also the best. But to be fair, still very playable though. So we are a little bit fluctuating here and there, which is kind of expected when you think about it. I think this is one of the last missions before the grand finale or whatever. But hey ho, who knows? Nobody knows. I definitely don't remember this. Yeah, to be fair, it's okay. So let's see how 4070 Ti actually fares here. And our last stop for 4070 Ti is the Horizon Zero Dawn. And based on the benchmarks with 3070 Ti, we were getting 65 during the synthetic benchmark and 70-ish plus or down on the actual gameplay. So let's take a look at the settings first. So we're still in 4K, no upscale method being used, 60 frames, 60 Hz refresh, no vertical sync, and graphics is still ultimate quality. So let's run a benchmark and see where we are. I do believe we might actually get a slightly better result in terms of, well, being a newer GPU. However, if you remember the tech sheet I was showing, we do have more CUDA cores and we do have more Tensor cores, but in terms of ROPs, we do have a drop. So technically it's kind of more advanced while cutting corners here and there. But still, you know, end of the day, let's see what we get here, because the raw performance of the game is more important than, you know, numbers on a sheet. If it runs fine, you are in a good place. If it doesn't run fine, that's where you can start worry a bit. But so far, yeah, I like the numbers I'm seeing. It is an improvement, and we're going to talk about everything else later on as well, like what and how and what should you do. So here is the start of the benchmark, I believe any second now. And I wish we could get 180 during the benchmark. That would be cool, right? But hey, even above 60, open world, well, semi-open world, and knowing how they made the magic happen for PC and how they make the magic happen for consoles, I would not hold my breath. So let's see. Also, due to the shader optimization, probably it's taking a little bit longer to load. I'm pretty sure with 3070 Ti it was the same story. But hey, loading screens are getting much longer every time you launch them, right? So straight off the bat, we're using 11 gigs of video memory and 10 of actual RAM, and oh wow, we are at high 80s here. This is looking so smooth. I cannot believe my eyes, like literally. During the 3070 Ti, it was no slouch, we were getting above 60, but this is looking so much better. 82, 11 milliseconds of the frame time. Well, it's not the frame time, it's actually GPU time, but hey. Right. To be fair, I'm pretty pleased. I'm really pleased about this. So this is where I would say, you know, if you launch the game after buying a GPU, you would rather want to see a substantial gain for the scenario you are running. So specifically if you're 4K gaming, I'm not saying you're gonna have this performance in a multiplayer, probably not, but if you are looking for that eye candy, you do have the horsepower under the hood. If for whatever reason that game that you're playing is still unable to achieve 60 frames, enable DLSS, right? Even on quality, I do believe this card is gonna blow out whatever imperfections there is and under sub 60s, and you will have literally barely noticeable drop in quality, unless, I don't know, your TV is like 120,000 inches, then probably you're gonna see a pixel here or there. But apart from that, this is very nice to watch. Look at this, 82 frames, 4K ultra. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine this would happen when the game dropped? We had the GPU to do this. And the fact itself that we are actually pushing into 12 gigs of the video memory, that is a little bit surprising, because I do believe there is some magic being worked on a back end of the game, since 3070 only has 8. I would need to go and double check what we actually had there, but pretty sure we were not this high up. If memory serves me right, I think we were at like 7.1 or 7.3 or 7.6, who knows. If you know, If you can just forward it back, let me know. I'm gonna check it during the editing stage anyway. But yeah, so far I must say this is the biggest jump of all the games we've seen, give or take. Again, solid 15 to 20 frame boost, which, comparing apples to apples, 3070 Ti and 4070 Ti, knowing that 4070 Ti does support frame generation, it does have more ray tracing cores, I would say overall it is a good investment. Perhaps not a necessary one. So I don't know many people who are playing exclusively 4K games, but if you're doing that, probably it's a good idea. At the same time, the AMD counterparts, 79 XTX and so forth, do offer 20 gigs of video memory. Might run slightly cooler, and you know, it's really, you have to kind of decide for yourself. So we are getting average 82 frames. This is just perfect. So let's jump out. Let's continue on where we left with Aloy and see. Doing the gameplay with the 3070, we got 70 frames. So I think we might actually be pushing high 80s here, if not all high 90s, to be fair, because again, synthetic benchmarks. And we talked about this on my channel extensively. If you run the same benchmark more and more again and again and again, eventually you're gonna end up with a higher score, right? Because files cached and whatnot. But this is just full-blown, no upscaling, no settings are being changed apart from driver reinstall, you know, so we just start with a fresh start and that's it. But wow, I'm rather happy, so cannot wait for the game to finally load. Even NVMe is not saving this game, I'm telling you. Right, here we are, and we are at high 80s. Look at this. Oh, 90. Oh my goodness. Not gonna make me a better shot, but hey. Actually, it is making me a little bit of a better shot. Not too soon. Goddamn stormbirds. No. 87. I cannot believe my eyes. I mean 90. And this is literally just from how it is. Guys, this is crazy. Since you have the unlimited travel pack, we're able to go. I'm kind of hoping to just be there during the daytime, because you know, nighttime the draw distance is much less, GPU doesn't need to see everything around, so I'm kind of hoping to kind of go somewhere and force the day and night cycle to progress, because I think how it works, at least in Wildlands. Anyway, well, let's see. I promise, if it's gonna be nighttime, we're gonna cut it here in terms of the games. We're gonna go straight to the outro and we're gonna just go from there, really. So yeah. Some interesting stuff here is going on, you know. Let me just note it down. And we are still doing the night, so I think that is pretty much how it is. Let's talk about this, shall we? So, what can we learn from all of this? Thank you, Nvidia. No, thank you. So, obviously this is the newest card that has currently dropped, the 4000 series. They say it's a mighty tasty upgrade. Okay, they which, well, to be knocked it out of the park, triumphs within its price range. So, first and foremost, yes, it is faster, but as every Nvidia product, every generation that comes out, apart from some dark horses like 1080 Ti, like the good old 780, we are getting exactly the same seen before 10 to 15% increase in performance. So even looking at the spec sheets, as you can see, so in comparison to 3070 Ti, right? So we have a higher memory clock, but at the same time lower bandwidth. We do have more RAM, but we definitely have less of the ROPS, or the rasterization performance unit. So I don't know, they kind of gave it a little bit more of the horsepower to pull through. At the same time, they kind of also limited it at some factors. So this is where things get a little bit different. So in terms of the price versus performance, I would even say if you're sitting on 3070 Ti, it is very highly unlikely you need a 4070 Ti. Okay? Just being real here. Because unless you are specifically targeting the games that are using DLSS 3 and frame generation, or you are severely bottlenecked by the 8 gigs of VRAM which 3070 Ti has, honestly, I would say you can just sit it out. To be fair, 3070 Ti, as from a get-go, is not a 4K card. It's a 4K capable card. But the same goes for 4070. And for 4070, even with these specs, as you can see, actually, I didn't even open a Ti version one, but you get what I mean. It's even more, it's less juicy, you know, if you know what I mean. Like, it is the usual Nvidia's trick. The regular 4070, then you have a Ti version, then you have 4080, then you have 4090. The requirements of open up those GPUs in terms of the performance, the games, the resolutions, the optimization keeps growing. That list is never ending. Overall, I am very happy to see that there is improvement in the games that I usually casually play, which is Wildlands, Odyssey, Metro Exodus, and Horizon Zero Dawn, apart from everything else that we're going to be benching in the future with this card. Obviously in 4K, probably with DLSS or frame generation enabled. But unless you are really, really, really bent on 4K and DLSS 3, it's not really worth it unless you are too rich and you really need to get rid of some money, because nothing else really is improved in this card in terms of any additional performance. So streaming to Twitch will be exactly the same as with the 3070 Ti, because streaming requires more than just an over-the-top GPU. If you're doing heavy workloads with an AutoCAD, Adobe, InDesign, CorelDRAW, probably the 4070 will be marginally better, but at the same time, due to the VRAM only being 12 gigs for the same price, you can get an AMD with higher VRAM and probably higher clock speeds. So, in my verdict, it is a nice card. It's a nice looking card. It does what it says, but it's definitely not a 50% faster than a 3070. Like, maybe if you enable DLSS, it probably will use it better, or if you use DLSS 3, but apples to apples, and this is the whole point of this video, this unboxing, these benchmarks, is I have not seen too many videos where we are not using upscaling technology. Raw power wise, we're getting the 15% increase as with every Nvidia's GPU. If we're gonna start throwing into the mix the, well, DLSS, results will vary, obviously, and the newer card probably is gonna win. If we're gonna compare 3080 Ti to 4080, the 4080 is gonna win. Exactly the same way. If you remember back in the day, 1080 Ti versus the 20 series, right? The 2000 series, 2070, 2080, 2080 Ti. Now the 3060 came out, then people started thinking, oh, what's going on? Then the 4000 series came out, and apparently there's some rumors that the 4060 is coming out, which will be great for whoever's gonna get it, because if you play in Full HD or 2K, DLSS frame generation is gonna save your day massively. Do you need the best CPU in the market? Probably not. Can you get away with an i5 96K on stock? I would say yes. Will it bottleneck you at some point? Probably. To be fair, the only game out of all of this where we did not see substantial increase is Wildlands, and Ubisoft is notoriously known for using single core performance as the backbone of their code. So, out of the Ubisoft, I don't know, I think we need to just go and test out some other games. Maybe Forza, maybe Halo Infinite, you know, things that are actually not really relying on a single core performance for the CPU, but kind of is on a graphics card side. But apart from that, yeah, well, I would say I do not have really a conclusion. I don't have a clear winner here. The 4070 Ti is a good card. But if I needed to say, would I spend 700 plus dishing it out just to upgrade 4070 Ti? If I didn't need to definitely have more VRAM, if I didn't need to have DLSS 3 titles, I don't know. Probably I would just sit on it for a while and just wait for the 5000 series. Anyway, at this note, this rant is over. I do thank you all for checking in, and if you survived till the end. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Over now.